And I guess the big thing I want to share is that I want to challenge all of you to just allow God to do things through you that you never thought were possible. Years ago, I went through something called Experiencing God by Henry Blackaby. How many of you remember that? Yep. And the main premise is watch where God is at work and join him, and he might speak to you, and he'll lead you to a place where you just take a leap of faith, after he speaks to you, and then you see him work. I never had any desire to go to Africa. It was not I think it's my wife's fault. She prayed when she was a child to be a missionary. But I was a pastor many years ago. This is a picture of our oldest daughter, Hannah, about 25 years ago. And I figured, well, as a Southern Baptist pastor, I need to build relationships with Southern Baptist missionaries. And so I began doing that. This one was in Africa and was just trying to lead our church to go on a short mission trip as a pastor, not like I had any desire, just doing my job, And then they left the mission field, and I was like, okay, God, what's next? And then the next year, I met a Ugandan pastor in a tiny town in Montana, of all places, Frank Butai, and I invited him to come speak to my church, and his sermon was, come to Uganda. There was a little more than that, but that was the main message. And we had 15 students and 7 adults sign up, and that was our first mission trip to Uganda almost 20 years ago from First Baptist Church of Monroe, Washington. And I was 42, and I went on that trip. And I'll tell you that I went with what I thought was a pure heart. I knew that God had blessed me in America, middle age, good income, all those things. And the Bible speaks of helping the poor and preaching the gospel to the poor. And a lot of verses about helping the orphan and the widow. And so I was going there to help the poor. And then something happened while I was there. And I discovered that they weren't the poor ones. I was the poor one. Revelation chapter 3, you probably know the message of Jesus to the church in Laodicea, and he says, I know your deeds. You're not cold or hot. I wish you were either cold or I wish you were hot. You're somewhere in the middle. You're not on fire. You're not cold. You're just kind of floating along in your Christianity, and makes me kind of want to spit you out of my mouth. And then he makes this comment. He says, you say I'm rich and have become wealthy. That deep down inside you think, I don't really need anything. I got everything I need. And by the way, that's why it's hard sometimes to reach people who are rich with the gospel, because they think they got all they need. And he says, you think you got everything you need, but you don't really know that you're not as rich as you think you are. You're actually poor. And when I got to Uganda, it's like God said, okay, Jim, I'm going to show you a group of pastors there who have a deep spiritual life that's going to make you feel really not so deep. The depths of the Holy Spirit in them, the depths of their prayer life, the depths of their faith, the things they're willing to pray and believe God for are things I would never pray and ask God to do, because I don't have that much faith. The things that God's doing through them. I remember one night I was talking to Frank, and I watched him literally cast demons out of some people. That's not your typical Baptist service in America. We preach and then someone gets demons cast out of them. But it was real, and I can talk about that later. But, he pointed out that verse where Jesus said this type only comes out by what? Prayer and fasting. See, that was a price I wasn't willing to pay. But he had paid that price. I watched him spending nights in prayer and fasting and the power of God that was working through him. These pastors who worked tirelessly without being paid at all. I mean, the teachers have to get the salary in the school, but the pastors are like, well, we're doing it for the Lord, so they're serving the Lord. I mean, I'm talking working 7 nights a week. Maybe they get Monday morning off a little bit. I saw a church dancing and praising, just like our Baptist services at home. Celebrating, alive, full of joy in the Lord. I saw a church that prayed. There were people that spent all night in the church praying, women who never left the church, like Anna in the book of Acts in this video. There are some praying towards the north, some praying towards the east, some praying towards the west, some praying towards the south for the advancement of the gospel. I saw so many people in the church just exhibiting the fruit of the Spirit. I saw young children who had nothing, who had more contentment and joy and peace than I had. And I said, I don't know what they have, but I want what they have. And so I'm just going to declare to you right now that I go to Uganda because I'm selfish, because it blesses me, not because of what I can do over there, but because of what God has done. And it didn't take me long to figure out who the poor people are. The Bible says God has chosen the poor of this world to be rich in faith. And there are spiritual riches and there's material riches. And I would just say that in general in America, we've got one of those. And in general, in some third world countries where they don't have those, they have the other kind of riches. And so it's a wonderful partnership. I've been back to Uganda about 14, I think 18 times. My wife's been 14, but we've taken over 100 people. We've only lost 2. No, I'm just kidding. We haven't lost anybody. If you ever want to come with us, we invite you to come. We'll be going again next year on a team. And this is, of course, our most recent team. Jerry and Leah Foster took a leap of faith and said, okay, we'll go. And my daughter, Hannah, who hasn't been there for 18 years, went. The impact Uganda's had just on me, those many people have become spiritual mentors to me. Frank and Helen, who lead the church there, God speaks to me every time when I go through them, and I've sought counsel from them in the depths of their spiritual life. God's always doing something in me. In fact, I'm so fired up, I just want to preach an hour sermon right now, because every time I go to Uganda, it lights my fire. I'll just tell you that. And ultimately, the ways that you see God work in some of these third world countries, to give an example, something like a small bar of soap, a bag of sugar, whatever, you can draw a crowd. You go out and you say, we're going to have an outreach. Come to church this Sunday, you'll get a little piece of soap. And people who don't know Jesus, people who are Muslims, people whatever, they'll just come to church because they're desperate. And of course, we give them something for they give them something for their physical need, but ultimately they're all about preaching the gospel. Try going to your neighbors today and saying, come to church, we'll give you some soap. It doesn't work, you know. So the depths is just incredible, the things I've seen God do. More than anything, I just want to say that everything that God's done through us was never on my radar. It was just God saying, okay, take this step. I'm like, okay, here we go. And then the next thing, it's like, okay, do this. It's like, okay, here we go. And here we are, you know, almost 20 years later, and God's established a ministry. If you don't know about Uganda, it's in East Africa. This is it. It's where we minister is in the city of Kampala, right on the edge of Lake Victoria, one of the largest freshwater lakes. I think it's second in size to Lake Superior. It is the source of the Nile that flows up through Egypt. So, you know, Frank always likes to say that Moses was drawn out of Ugandan water. But of course, like many countries, it has a lot of financial poverty. People live on about $2 a day. It is the second youngest country in the world. The median age, I think, is 16. So half the population, 16 under, half is over. And 70% are under the age of 30. So it's a very young country, a lot of children, huge population of single moms. I could talk about this for a long time because the situation's so desperate. A man gets a woman pregnant. He can't even provide for himself. He's like, you're on your own. And so now there's a single woman with a child, and then she meets another man, and same thing happens, repeat, and he's like, I'm out of here. And so you see so many desperate moms just trying to survive raising kids, and children who have absent fathers. They're just not there. Some are total orphans. There's 2.6 million total orphans. But the big thing where we stepped in as far as our ministry is that there's no free education for kids. And so you have to have money to go to school. And so it's hard to comprehend that if you don't have money, you just won't get an education. And if 100 kids join school in like first grade, by the time they're in sixth grade, there's like 60 of them. By the time they're in 10th grade, there's like 30 of them. By the time they're in 12th grade, there's like 10 of them. And maybe 2 or 3 might make it to college. There's just a huge attrition. The average child makes it to 6th grade. They teach English in the schools, and so the official language is English, but people speak the native language of Luganda. My wife and I established a nonprofit about 12 years ago. And the main purpose is to establish sponsorships in the schools. The church that Frank and Helen pastor that we work with, they have a primary school, which is three grades of preschool. nursery school. That's the one on your right there, so cute. Oh my goodness. And then the primary school, which is like kindergarten through 6th grade, and then the high school, which is 7th through 12th grade. So there's 16 grades in the school. And we've established sponsorships through our ministry that, we attach them to a student, but the reality is so many students turn over because it's a transient community that most of our sponsors understand that you might get lucky and sponsor a child who stays for 10, 15 years and goes to college, but a lot of times the student leaves and we get another sponsor. I always tell people you're sponsoring the whole school. The one thing we do is if you give $50 a month to sponsor a child, we don't keep any of it. We send all 50 over to Uganda to help support the school. And we run it through a man named Chibarige. That's how it looks like Kibberidge up there. It's pronounced Chibarige. The K-I is Chi. But we spent a lot of time with Chibarige this week. He administers the school. He's like the superintendent. He knows all the kids, and Daniel and I communicate constantly. If there's a need, he communicates to me. I talk to the sponsors, and again, by God's grace, we have wire transferred since we started this ministry, $3.25 million. And this is in my spare time through emails. I mean, it's just a thing of God for sure. And that's not glory to God. It's not even counting all the gifts and money and things that we've sent for people and things. Every year we go there to make sure that the students are there. We if you're sponsoring a student, we take a picture of the student. We bring gifts. That's what we did this year to make sure the accountability is there. Some of how God has used us over the years has been to impact actual buildings being built. And I want to share just briefly about that. This was the school on one of our first trips there. The one on your right is the rented school building. They just throw slabs up. The one on the left was the church building. Frank calls that open air conditioned because the wind blows through, and that's what you get. But the schools now, the bottom left is the nursery, the middle one's the primary school, the far right one is the high school that have been built. This is the church building right here that's been built. On our first trip, we established an orphanage, and there's 2 other orphan houses that are there as well, so 3 orphan houses that have been built. We built a kitchen not too long ago, about 2 years, kitchen that feeds about 600 people a day, and staff quarters, so the teachers kind of stay and they have room and board provided for them, and then a little bit of extra money. Average salary for teachers, $200 a month. That's the take home. So it's not a whole lot. I love Google Earth because you can see. So this is kind of an aerial view of the ministry, and you can see where the buildings are and the things that God has done just through that. I love the fact that we're able to meet individual needs. I mean, we certainly have seen God work programmatically, through the numbers of kids that have gotten an education and people who have gotten saved, but it's the individual needs. Feeding children twice a day. There are some kids that talk about how they love living in school. So, quick side note, in America, we would never send our kids to boarding school because we want our kids at home. But over there, if you have money, you send your kids to live in the school 9 months a year so they can be fed, they have a bed, they have a safe environment where they can have their education. But a lot of the kids who live in our boarding schools say, I love it here because I have a bed, I have 2 meals a day. I mean, things that we take for granted. So we feed the children, we've provided. In fact, before I'm done, I'm going to share about these 2 families. The one at the top, Jackie and her brothers, a single mom. These are the 2 families that over the course of every year that we've gone, we've built relationships with. Daniel has always identified these as the poorest of the poor, the ones that are in the greatest needs. And we're trying to do something for their housing right now on this trip. I'll share as well. We've seen God provide education, which may not seem like much, but to actually learn to speak English and read and write can open up doors for jobs. And many of our students have actually gone on to college and been able to get or training in how to become a mechanic or a nurse or some skill In America, high school education gets you something. In Uganda, it just means you finished high school. You have no skill. So you need to learn how to do something like welding or mechanics or something to be able to have some means of bringing in a little bit of income every day. The primary purpose of the church in Uganda is all about sharing the gospel. Frank Bataille cares about souls. Everything they do is about the gospel. And so even the school, as a Christian school, there are Muslim kids that go to the school. Parents will send their kids to the school because they have the opportunity for free education and it's nearby. They can walk to school. We teach the Bible in school. There's a daily worship, weekly worship service in school. The kids, the middle picture in the top, that's them getting, what is it, like true love waits, kind of that idea of waiting until marriage before you have relations with somebody. They're making commitments. They're being taught about that. That we give them Bibles. Sharon Calhoun, my friends David and Sharon are back here from Spokane. Sharon's been with us on a couple of trips, and she bought, I don't know, about 300 Bibles or something that we gave out to kids last year when we went. It was amazing. So we're seeing souls saved for the kingdom, which is amazing by what we do. But I think one of the greatest things we do, just as Mzungu, say Mzungu. It's M-Z-U, Mzungu. Try it again. Mzungu. Mzungu, there you go. That means white person. So we're the Mzungus who come in, and they don't see a lot of white people there where we minister, but we give them hope. I mean, it's like somebody sees us, somebody cares. Why are you doing this? Why is someone I don't even know paying for my school fees? And it's because of Jesus. And of course, we give that hope when we're there. A lot of times, sponsors are able to come and meet the children that they've sponsored and connect with them. And don't underestimate hope when you're living in a place where there's not a lot of hope. What I want to do a little bit right now is just brag about what God has done, not through our ministry. Our ministry is a nonprofit called Restoration Uganda. That's the English side. The church in Uganda is called the Restoration Assembly Church. And so the Restoration Assembly Church is the Ugandan church. Restoration Uganda is our nonprofit. So Restoration Assembly Church, what God has done through that church is amazing. Frank and Helen Bataille, again, the man I met in Montana about 20 years ago, he established this church in a area of Kampala called Nakalabie, which is a very slum area in Kampala. And it was called Restoration because of the scripture in Joel about restoring hope and bringing that back. And to me, one of the most amazing parts about why he started the school was not just an outreach to people, but to actually make disciples. So if you live in the school, we got about 200 kids living in the school right now that are there 9 months a year. They go to church on Wednesdays. They go to church on Sundays. They were at our training on Saturday. They have a kids' worship service on Wednesday night. They have student Bible studies. So these kids are being raised by the church. And I can't tell you how many, even though there's that attrition, there are a lot of students who you meet in high school who have been in the school for 10, 11, 12 years. So they've been raised by the church. And it's really, not only is it about education, but disciple making. You know, when you think about in America, we get maybe 2 hours a week with students to teach them. But if they're living with you 9 months a year, the amount of influence you can have is incredible. Youth conferences, other conferences, they have a radio ministry that reaches the city of Kampala. Probably one of the greatest things is Helen has just a heart for the women. There's a Thursday weekly meeting for, there are about 500 prostitutes in the area, and they come. And they come because they're loved, and they're accepted, and they're encouraged, and she's trying to teach them other skills where they can have different jobs, and because nobody wants to be in that profession. There are so many vulnerable, abused women, and she's just doing an incredible work. Impacting women. She's got an ambulance ministry where if a woman is pregnant and can't get to the hospital, they call her and she'll get an ambulance for them to get to the hospital. I could just go on about that. Let me back up. So Frank has a gift of raising up pastors and wanted to just get the gospel going. So the first 10 years he started his church, He actually started 50 other churches, planted 50 other churches, which is pretty incredible, just to say plant 50 churches in 10 years, and sent them out. But for reasons I won't go into, that just kind of didn't work. It's like there was no accountability, and the ones that he sent out, so he just kind of released them all and said, do whatever God's told you to do. And he began to focus on Nakalabye. So this is Google Earth 2013. What you're going to see here is in 2014, they built their church building. It was about 12 years ago. A few years later, they built the primary school. That's where the students are still gathering there. And then the next year, we were able to secure some land. As you see from the aerial view, it's the only blank piece of land in the area that doesn't have something on it. And as the church grew in 2021, the building itself ran out of room. Great problem, amen? I mean, they had like 2 services and it's full and they can't get any bigger. So in fact, Sharon, you were there on our trip. They moved out to the land. I think that was your first trip. And they set up these tents all the way around. They rented tents and put them on the land, and they held their worship services there. But once again, they ran out of room. They built this huge church tent. They did a rent-to-own deal, and this is the tent when it was built. This is actually the tent today. I took a picture. It's got pavers on it, you can see. And here's something you'll see. These are our preschool kids. As you walk out here, you'll see some of the neighbors, and you just walk out, and that's where the church is right there. So it's just the school, the church, it's all right there in the, I don't know, is that 50 feet away or something like that. But so here what happened, the church began to grow. Finally, 3 years ago, less than 3 years ago, again, Frank's been the pastor for 24 years. He said, okay, we're not going to grow anymore if we just stay here. So he took his 10 best leaders and said, go plant your own church and go out. And he started challenging his church. If you've been sitting in this church longer than 3 years, you need to go. He lost some people because not everyone likes that message. But he totally split the church up and sent pastors out, his own son, his best worship leader, Brian, to plant 10 new locations. And each location, what they would do is kind of like a satellite church in America. They tune in for just the sermon. But other than that, and then after the sermon, the pastor would kind of preach a little bit and give altar calls. But each location was given a vision. Pray, preach, pastor, and then plant. So pray, preach the gospel. As people get saved, you pastor them, then raise them up and send them out to plant more churches. And there's accountability. They got small groups, all kinds of things going on. And this is connected to the school. I'll share in just a moment. But what's incredible, these are the numbers that blew my mind away because, you just see what God is doing. These were their numbers 3 years ago in June. Sunday morning attendance, 840 people when they split up into 10 locations around Kampala. And then they had small groups. 21 people got saved that particular Sunday. I said, Frank, give me your best Sunday. And it said it was on October 26th or something like that. They had 88 locations, 9,500 people attending, 34,000 in small group, and 394 people got saved that day. Whoa! I mean, talk about a move of God. Just raising up more churches, raising up leaders, spreading out. In fact, the Sunday we were there, you can see Leah on your left there was sharing the gospel, teaching the kids, but also sharing the gospel. Only 210 people got saved last Sunday in all the locations. They only had about 6,000 or 7,000 people in attendance. But it's just incredible what God is doing through this. Right now, they have 125 locations. 78 are in Kampala. They have 27 in eastern Uganda, 9 in western Uganda, 11. And those other locations are being translated into other tribal languages that are going out. Again, this has all been in the last 3 years as he has prayed and sought the Lord's vision on this to send it out. They have accountability. I won't get into right now. Weekly leader meetings, monthly trainings, and then once a year they try to get everyone together in Kampala for a big worship service. But God is just blessing this church in reaching souls for Christ. They have a vision for 600 locations by the end of this year. They got 125 right now. We're believing God for 600 locations. Talk about faith, to just print that and proclaim it and pray for it and just believe this is what God's going to do. Again, it's incredible. Here's where it comes in for us. Frank has said more than once that the school ministry is kind of the where so many of his disciples and leaders are coming from, that the school ministry that we support has totally transformed. Most of the leaders that are going out and serving in other churches are coming from the school. In fact, every week there's about 35, 40 students that are in school, in high school, that leave on Sunday to go to other locations to serve as leaders and come back. So the students are location leaders. The students are proclaiming Christ and serving the Lord. So they're really reaching young people, which is just incredible. Real quick, what God's doing in the schools. They take national exams every year, and we've had to go to other locations to take national exams. By the way, our school, Brag on Jesus, rocks in our national exam scores. We're kicking it out of the ballpark, hitting it out of the ballpark, whatever the word would be. The national average only gets 45% of the best grades, and our school's been getting 94% in the last 14, 15 years. But in order to host a national testing, you have to have tile on your floors. And our floors have not had tile for a long time. It makes a big difference. This is our library. We've got just a small portion of the school that's been tiled. So when I was there this week, this is the high school, and the entire fourth floor now is being tiled. Let's see, this is the room pre-tiling, and these are the guys working on it, and then after tiling it. We could use some paint on the side, as you can tell. But again, when you're just trying to feed children, pay teacher salaries, things like paint become not necessarily a need, but we're still seeing God at work in the circumstances of what is happening there. And as well, the primary school, the entire top floor has now been tiled as well. That happened on the day we were leaving on Monday. So what we did on our trip, I'll get Jerry and Leah to come up here in a minute and share. But Jerry got to be on the radio going out to the M12 ministries with my daughter Hannah. Leah and Hannah also spoke at the kids' weekly worship service as well. We did a distribution of some soap. This is soap and washcloths to all the kids in the school. They were donated. Jerry took about 500 pictures and videos. He was our camera guy of all the students. He didn't put his finger over the camera at all, which I was very proud of. Thank you, Jerry, for that. And Leah helped administer all the gifts that went to the kids. We ate a lot of food, as you can see, celebrated some birthdays, enjoyed some good views, and saw God at work. They had to sit through a couple of sermons. Jerry and Leah, why don't you guys come up here? By the way, the church service there, if you look at this slide, starts at 8 o'clock, goes for 2 hours, and then when the first service is over, they say, our service is over, welcome to the second service. And they just keep going. So we were in church for 5.5 hours. Please come up here. People can see you. Yeah. So, oh yeah, this is the hype session. Tammy's going to start one next week, I just heard. The little boy on the right, I just love the kids. They get into this too. But this is, again, part of what they're doing to draw young people in. I think I might have seen you do a little dancing, a little bit. But what happens in Uganda stays in Uganda, so we won't go too much into that. Well, obviously not. There we go. It impressed me when church was over. They had, 800 chairs or whatever, and within 3 minutes they were all put away. Every person picked up their chair and put them away, including this little person here. We got to go on a field trip to the zoo, and this is significant because the kids in the school, this is the once-in-a-lifetime chance to actually be a kid, to go to the zoo, to see animals, to learn some things, to swim. They actually don't know how to swim, so they rent swimsuits and get in the pool and just be kids, splash around. You know, their lives are so hard. For me, that's important. Maybe it's wasteful because we could feed kids instead of this, but I'm an American. I want to see them have some fun. And this wonderful couple right here, I got a picture of them. They were celebrating, don't clap yet, their 50th wedding anniversary. I said, what are you doing for your 50th wedding anniversary? He said, we're going to Uganda. So now you can clap.
What am I supposed to say?
Whatever you want. Share what you saw God do, what you experienced.
Well,
Should I give the mic to your wife first, or?
Well, she's got a
Okay.
prepared speech. What we saw there was God moving, as Jim was saying. What amazed me the most was how many workers they have, people that are there that don't have anything, don't get paid very much, but they're teaching the children. I don't think I ever saw a child walk around the school with a frown on their face. They were all happy to be there. The only negative I would say to the whole place is lots of stairs, lots of up and you saw the buildings, walking up and down stairs, but we made it. God strengthened us to do the work that He had for us to do there, and I thoroughly enjoyed seeing what was there, talking to the especially Daniel and our chauffeur guide for the whole week, Brian, who drove. You should have shown some of the videos that I took of the driving.
Oh my gosh.
If you see
Crazy.
some of these, you'll never complain about Atlanta traffic again. But I would love to see some of you all there at some point in time. Lee and I have both said that at some point we will go back, whether it'll be next year or after that. But we both would, if we're capable, healthy enough, we'd like to go back and continue helping do what God is already doing in Uganda.
Amen.
I knew I'd ramble, so y'all know
Yeah.
me. I got it written out.
Awesome.
I may repeat some things because I didn't know exactly what Jim was going to say. Normally when we come back from one of these trips, we get interviewed. So I wasn't sure what questions people had. So I called my sister in Texas, and she said, focus on these 5 things: goals of the trip, highlights, what surprised or challenged me, where did I see God work, and any prayer requests. So let me begin by saying Mwasuze Mucha, which translated in English is, hey, y'all. The goals, he already explained. What we understood our main job was going to be interviewing the students that have sponsors for this accountability. And not just make sure you're doing it right, but just a connection. We have a girl in Rwanda we've been supporting for 10 years, and I get a letter from her that's translated because she's never learned English, but there's not really a connection there. And so we were there to take the videos. That was Jerry's job, interview the kids, talk with them. There were gifts that we brought, just little gifts. Some of the sponsors sent money to give to the students. I knew that sometime during the week that we would take the kids to the zoo and the pool, but everything else fell into the category of stay flexible. So if y'all have been on a missionary trip, y'all know what that means. Highlights, one of the sweetest things was just witnessing the close relationship that Jim and his daughter Hannah, and I'm sure Tammy, have with the kids. They would walk into the room where we were going to do the interviews, and within a minute, Jim is on his computer and he'd pull up a picture of them from like 10 years ago. I remember, he knew all their names, he knew where he'd seen them, he knew where they were in the computer. That just blew me away. Something else that I wasn't expecting was, and Jim mentioned this as well, the needs don't just stop where the students are. It's the families of the students. It's the teachers of the students. And sweet Daniel, who is the superintendent, frequently during the time we were there would walk over to Jim and he'd have a conversation with him about some dire need, some difficult situation that somebody was in. And because of the support of these amazing sponsors who don't just support the kids, they support the church, they support the school. Most of the time, we had the money to do that, and I did not expect that. That was really sweet. Anytime there was worship, that was a highlight. The level of joy is off the charts. Some of you know that I have been to Haiti since 2006. I've seen them exhibit joy during times that are very difficult, but for the most part, it's very reserved. That's not the case in Uganda. Their joy is contagious, even the dancing, though my knees paid me back the next day. I did participate. Pastor Jim's 3 sermons and teachings were so anointed, I didn't even mind sitting through that 3 hours in the second service. Highlights included just... I'm not going there. Highlights included just being in Uganda. It was so not what I expected. There were rolling hills all over the place. We spent one evening at the cultural center with the dances, and the drums were just incredible. The craft bazaar at downtown Kampala, it's a little maze, but I wish I'd bought a whole lot more stuff now that I'm home. And then, of course, taking those kids. It wasn't just a zoo, and it wasn't just a pool. It was like a big complex of stuff. So we walked through this beautiful zoo, and then they rented the swimsuits, and they had this big pool all to themselves for 2 hours. They were just ecstatic. And then there were all these carnival rides and obstacle courses. They just thought they died and gone to heaven. It was just the sweetest thing ever. And I don't think I'll forget it. There was 36 kids, and all of them had a good time. Then the last evening that we were there, we went to the Speak Resort before we headed to the airport. And that was one of those pinch me moments. Sitting out there underneath the stars next to Lake Victoria was just very cool. What surprised and challenged me, since I've been to Haiti so often, least developed countries like Uganda were pretty much what I expected. Every morning before 6 o'clock, the Muslims started their call to prayer. We experienced that when we went to Kenya last May. I was pleasantly surprised there was a large interstate, didn't expect that, all the way from the airport to Kampala, and some of the main highways were paved, but that's where the familiar ended. Kampala takes the cake when it comes to boda drivers. For those of y'all who don't know what a boda driver is, it's a kamikaze guy on a motorcycle who offers to take you wherever you want to go, and there are hundreds of them. They do have street lights on the main roads, and so we're in our green van, and there's hundreds of them, and there's like 100 of them on our side. On the other side of the lights, another 100, and there's 100 over there and 100 over there, and they don't necessarily think that the rules apply to them. So when the light turns green, it gets very exciting. It was the rainy season, but it reminded me more of cloudbursts in Florida. It would rain really hard for a short period of time, but then it just kind of cooled things off. We did not have air conditioning, certainly not in the school, not in the church, not in the hotel, but we were very comfortable there. The temperatures were in the 70s with a breeze most of the time. It got a little warm out in the sun the last 2 days, and I didn't see any mosquitoes. I was ready. I had my deep woods off, but I never needed it. Challenges for me related mostly to 2 things. One of them, very uneven stairs. And everything, as he mentioned, was climbing up and climbing down. The other dreaded fear of mine was the squatty potty. I had been warned about it ahead of time. I was hoping I would not have to experience one. There are not regular toilets in the school at all. The only one within walking or running distance was up 3 flights of dirt stairs at the top of the church office. So there was one day I was forced to use one. I was pleasantly surprised it was in a stall, so I could brace myself. I did not make a mess, but I never went into another one again. So I'm going to leave that there. Okay, where did I see God moving? in the people of Uganda. They are the gentlest, most welcoming, most loving people I've ever met. I realized I have a family all around the world. I saw God meet needs great and small, not just in the lives of the students, but for our team, because you guys were praying for us. You don't know how many almost disasters we had with luggage and seats on planes that all of a sudden disappeared. It was just insane. But at every moment, God took care of it. As Jim has explained so well already, what God has done through Restoration Uganda in the past 20 years is nothing short of a miracle. And to hear Pastor Frank talking about 600 locations is to see a faith that's rare in countries like ours and inspires me to believe God for more. Prayer requests, I think Jim's pretty much covered these. The school is in great need of money to update classrooms, and the girls' dormitory needs to be demolished and rebuilt. A number of the kids, you said 200 of them, board, and they need to be in a safe, clean place. School goes all the way from primary to college, and there's a constant need for more sponsors. Sponsors that will not just support a child, because as he said, sometimes there's a turnover, but to support the school and the work that they are doing there. Please pray for more students. They've lost about 100 over the last couple of years for a lot of different reasons, and they need wisdom to know how to work around that. One big difference I did see between Haiti and Uganda: when Haitians get an education, they leave because there's no jobs in Haiti. When a Ugandan gets an education, they stay and make a difference. So I hope this gives you an idea of what's going on in Uganda and inspires some of you to get involved in one way or another. It can be physically taxing, especially the long flights there. But if I can do it, just about anybody here can do it. And as I heard on the TV the other morning, you never know what you're missing when you say no.
That was amazing. Thank you guys so much, Jerry and Leah. If you can give me your attention for 7 more minutes, we'll be done, I promise. Let me just say that, I'm going to make a little appeal to maybe for some of you to get involved. And I want to say, just do what the Holy Spirit says. Not everybody sponsors a kid. Not everybody is moved by this. It's okay. But whatever God puts on your heart. Some ways you can join us in being involved. We have monthly sponsorships, and right now, because of the turnover kids, this is the beginning of the year, I've only got the boarding section students and about 4 day school students. The day students are the ones who live at home, walk to school, and then go home. Those are $39 a month. And then the boarding section ones are the ones that we provide for their food, for their lodging, 9 months a year. Those are $79 a month. But if you want to get involved in sponsoring a student, what we will do is promise that every year we go, we'll get a picture, we'll get a video, we'll deliver a gift or a picture or video from you to them to help build some connection. But if you want to get involved and there's no students over there, you can talk to Tammy or Sharon and sign up to get on a waiting list. If you just want to come visit the tables, take something home from Uganda, maybe make a small donation. There's a QR code inside of your bulletin that goes directly to our PayPal giving fund. And if you use a credit card there, whatever you give, we get 100% if you use that link. If you give through PayPal, they take money. I don't know how it works, but if you use that link, we get 100% of it. So again, you can make a small donation there. Some of the individual needs that you might be stirred to help give towards, I mentioned those 2 families earlier. Let me quickly walk through them. Jackie Nakijoba has been, she was a little girl holding up the card, the pink card, True Love Waits, when she was 12, and she's now 26. But every year I go, her single mother who's raising these 4 kids, we usually have to rescue her. We pay like 6, 7, 8, 9 months rent. The rent, by the way, is $60 a month, but she can't afford it. The kids are being supported in the school, but they're getting so desperate right now that the mother may have to move back out to the village, which would mean a separation and destitute lifestyle. The mother's brother passed away and left a 3-bedroom house Now, that may sound generous, but what we need to do is fix the house up in order to be livable. We're trying to raise $4,000 total, and this just doesn't really help the school, doesn't really help the whole ministry. It's just for this one family. If you want to give towards that, I can give you pictures and videos of all the kids. They're all in our program. This is a video of the house. So I want you to see what type of house we're talking about. Dirt floor, brick walls with some holes in it. But, you know, it's not quite livable right now. They want to put doors on it and windows on it and maybe try to put a floor on it. So for about $4,000, we can make it so that mom stays and she'll never have to pay rent again because she'll own that house. And Jackie, of course, who's already got a college degree, will stay there as well. So that's on our heart to do. And then the other family, Walter and Irene Majuni, and their 7 kids. Let me go. I don't think I have. Well, I'll just go there. We bought a house for them 5 years ago. We paid $10,000 to buy a house for these 7 siblings that all lost their mother. They were all orphaned. And they moved into this house. The house, Jerry and Leah could tell you, we visited it. It's 2 very small rooms. It's you know, not, they're so proud of their house. They're so thankful. They have a house. They don't have to pay rent. But the house really needs some work. It needs walls, plastering, tiling. When we bought it, it was kind of as is. Again, for $5,000, we're going to put a new roof on it, put up 2 new walls, plaster the whole house, tile, put a veranda. Again, if your heart's stirred, I have so many videos of the 2 of them. You can give towards one of these needs. Some of you might want to help plan a church location. Just a TV and a video, and a new location can go out. Leah already mentioned the greatest need that we have is, and I'm almost done, guys, 2 minutes. This is an aerial view of the blue roof buildings are permanent steel roof, steel tile structures, but all that area in the yellow there are dilapidated old buildings that we bought as is, and the girls are living there, and it's so bad that Ugandans don't even want their kids to live there, if that makes sense. So we came up with a vision about 1.5 years ago. We've actually got plans for it to build a whole new girls' boarding section. They've got plans for 6 stories. Now, they're not going to build 6 stories at once. They just start with 1 story. But we've already paid for all the permits. I think cost about $40,000 to get all the permits and everything, so that's done. But now we're trying to raise money for a God-sized project that each floor will cost over $100,000 to build. But we're just praying that God can do it. He's already done it in the past. It's definitely beyond anything I can do or we can do. The church is praying, but it's a need, and we believe that if we're able to build this, it will help bring in Ugandan income, because then other Ugandans will pay to put their kids in the school, which will help support the needs as well. If you want to tile a floor, you can tile a floor. There's so many needs. Wherever your heart is stirred, even if you just want to give to an individual. Come to Uganda next year. Come join us. Jerry and Leah have already said publicly they're coming back. They may not come next year, but if you come to Uganda, you will meet some of these wonderful people that we talk about. You'll get to meet this group of people. Everywhere you go, the kids are just so excited and so delightful. We will be going in spring of next year, probably about 1 year from now. Obviously not at Easter time, but if you're interested in going, come talk to me. I'll get you on a list, and we'll see. And then finally, just invite you to pray. Pray for Uganda, for the work that God's doing over there. Thank you so much for allowing me to be able to share this ministry with you. And again, my greatest challenge, why don't you go ahead and stand and I'll close this in prayer. My greatest challenge is just, as you and I as Christians surrender our life to God, you just never know how God's going to use you.